We're live.
Now we are.
We are live today at the Texas Real Estate Show, and welcome to the party. And we are together with one of the lone ladies of Texas up today. Where's your buddy today? Where's Miss Laura?
She is at a closing over in Dallas.
Yes, I don't know these lenders. She's in Dallas. Dallas is more important than Houston today. But anyway,
she is committed to drive all the way over there for a closing.
And I think that shows some dedication. But not, well, anyway, I'm not going to go into that.
Hey, I drove an hour and a half just to get here.
Yeah, well, she should have drove 5 hours from Dallas just to get there, but here we go. We are here, and where we're here, we're at the Texas Real Estate Show. We are your real estate source, and if you need to become an agent, you want to become an agent, you want to become an investor, or you just want to know more about the industry, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We want to hear from you. Do not hesitate to any questions, chat on the channel. We will do our best to get back to you with any questions at all. Today we have two people from a company called Baldur Construction who do a lot of, they're general contractors, and they do a lot of work in the Houston and basically 3 counties. Can we say 3 counties?
Yeah,
all counties. So basically, and we have Andrew Sparrow and we have Andrew Dickinson. So
you messed it up. Start over.
Andrew Sparrow and Matthew Dickinson.
You said Andrew for both of them.
Oh, I did? Well, there you go. You're both Andrew for a day. So anyway, Matthew, introduce yourself.
So I'm Matthew Dixon. We started Baldur Construction middle of last year. And we have just been hitting the ground running ever since.
Andrew, now, you told me an interesting story about yourself.
Matthew.
All right. I'm sorry, Matthew. All right. Matthew, you told us an interesting story about yourself a little bit early. Would you like to share that? Because I think it's an incredible story.
Yeah, so April of last year, I actually had a gastric surgery. I was just about 600 pounds. And that was April of last year, and now I'm down to about 240.
I am
awesome.
so impressed with that. I'm telling you, when you said that, and I looked at you and I'm thinking, wow, that is just amazing. In 12 months' time.
That's how I felt whenever he started so much heavier than me.
And
then he passed me up, and I was like...
What do you weigh now?
Right about 240.
Is it weird not being the big person now?
Yes, 100%.
My husband, whenever he got the gastric, he had the same problem.
What's the biggest difference that you feel going from where you was to where you are now? I know we're not talking about real estate, but...
He doesn't have to replace a bed every 2 years.
Yeah, so that is a great thing. So I think the biggest difference for me is I didn't realize how effortless it was to move. When I was that heavy, it just seemed like it took so much energy for me to be able to move around, especially in the construction world, getting on roofs, doing property inspections and things like that. I would be able to get through 1 or 2 in a day, and I would just be spent. All of my energy was moving my large body.
Do you work? I mean, do you work out now?
So I haven't started working out.
Is that because they told you not to work out yet? Let your body sort of
Correct.
naturally recover, or?
Yeah. So my doctor said not to start lifting weights or working out until after the 1 year mark. So I just passed the 1 year mark last month. So I am planning on starting to get into the gym soon. That'll help with some of the loose skin and stuff like that from losing all of that extra weight. But with work right now, everything's just been so busy, it's been having a hard time to find my way into a gym.
With construction, you probably don't even need to go to the gym, honestly.
Yeah, correct. So I do spend most of my days climbing up and down ladders, lifting materials, things like that, swinging sledgehammers. So I do get a workout pretty much every day anyways. But
Wow, I just think that's an amazing story. I mean, and salute to you, because I think it's that's just a huge achievement to me. To make the decision,
He's half the man he
because
used to
it's
be.
risky. Well, you could definitely say
Less
that.
than half, yeah.
Literally.
Depends which part of his body you're looking at. But basically, you can.
Do this. Steven, we're gonna have to put beeps on the show. It's gonna be a little bit beep.
No! Life should be full of laughter. Life should be full of laughter.
I agree.
All right, you know, it's laughter that makes life. And it's just a British sense of humour, but you Americans, you've got no sense of humour. So anyway, so basically, one, I think it's huge that you made the decision to even get that done, because it is dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it a dangerous procedure? And two, when you walked in this morning, I would have thought, nah, he's never had to go through that. And I just think it's an amazing story. So, you know, and then the second person of the team from Baldur Construction, and I'll get it right this time, is Matthew.
His name's Andrew. Steven.
It's Andrew Sparrow. I'm kidding. It's okay. It's Andrew, and his name is Andrew Sparrow. And tell me where you're from, Andrew.
Originally from Indiana.
No, tell the real truth where you're from. Tell the viewers where you're
So,
really from.
Back in the old days, my family was from Wales.
You should have a better sense of humour
Which
if you
is
anything.
apparently where this gentleman's from. So,
Originally, my family was from Wales. Absolutely. So, yeah, you came from a good place, and you've never been to Wales, which I feel very disappointed. You need to go to Wales.
gotta go visit those sheep.
Yeah, you do. Would you like me?
No.
Would you like me to?
Okay.
Okay, everybody. Just so
Next question.
everybody knows, and it's out on the table, and everybody knows, we have a nickname for people in Wales, and we get very offended to the Welsh, and we are called the land of something, but I really don't want to say that we're called the land of sheep shaggers, and I really don't. I think it's I take obsession. I really take sort of.
Does that hurt your feelings?
It does.
It looked like it.
It does. You know, because that's what we do. I mean, it's a very hilly country and there's a lot of sheep. But basically, it's sort of a joke out there. It's a very, very old joke, but I think it's sort of,
Oh no.
it's out of its day now. Let's move on anyway.
Is that the kind of sheep that you had with the butts?
That?
I'm pretty sure those are in like Saudi Arabia.
No.
Or
that's-
Egypt.
We should call those apple bottom sheep.
We used to have a farm when I was a kid, and can people see that? Okay. We used to have a farm, and I was trying to explain to these Americans around this table that what we used to do was we used to have a real small farm in Tredegar, South Wales, and basically the sheep would go up on the hills in the summer, and they was branded with a stamp, and then they would basically we would shave the sheep at the beginning of the spring, and we'd sell their wool, and then they would go back up on the hills when it's warm, and then some would go to slaughter, and the lambs were kept for the following year. Well, one year a lot of them were stolen basically, and we just couldn't afford to keep the farm, so we had to sell the farm, which was a great shame for the family, but that's just the way it is. So let's go to construction. Let's go back to the good old fun. Now, what have you got in front of us, by the way, before we get on to the what's this you've got?
So these are Japanese, basically like sprites, and the fun part is actually opening them. So pick one.
Choose a
Well, you know the process that I'm going through on Friday,
So
which
you
is
need-
very similar to yours, but they're just going up the other end. I'm having a colonoscopy on Friday.
Even if you don't drink it, just open it.
Is it a trick?
Kinda. Do you want to take a guess how y'all open them? Go ahead. It does have some instructions a
Can
little
I
bit.
smack it
If you look
to-
on the top, it's got instructions. It's not really great, but
I can't even read. Well, this needs to come off.
Nope. I don't know.
Did you work in construction or what?
You see the way I hit that thing? I used to do marine construction too.
So I'll give y'all a second, and then I'll tell you how to do it.
I could make so many comments about this, but I'm not.
Okay, so first take it out.
Take what out?
This middle part.
Up here.
Oh.
Okay.
Then you can use it inside of it, or you can just use it like this. And
Only the Japanese can come up with an idea like that. Hold on, I'll take this out.
yeah, take it out first. There you go. And the little ball stays
So
in there, and it won't come out.
What does the little ball do?
It's just there. That's it.
The story of my
I
life.
think it's supposed to be
It's just there. It doesn't do anything.
So what do you enjoy more? Getting into it?
Mine's
or
actually not
drinking
bad.
Both. I like it. It's not a whole bunch of sugar. It's kind of
it?
different.
Lychee, lychee. I like lychee. Yeah.
What
flavor is
flavor
yours?
is that?
This is lychee. Do you want some?
No, thank you.
What? I have
Do you
no
want to pour
idea what
something
flavor it is,
in
but you're
one of
welcome to
your
try.
cups?
This is corn.
This is Hawaiian
What?
blue.
So that's why you were late. You were going to get some
No,
corn.
I
This
was
is just
here,
original.
I was just talking about.
Dear, dear, dear.
So
All
what's
I
y'all's
can-
rating on that? Do y'all like it?
Oh.
Yeah, it's actually not bad.
I tell you what,
I
the
would drink it.
kids have a blast with those.
What, playing with the balls or drinking it?
Both. Both of them.
Well, when they're running around the yard playing with the chickens.
I guess.
Corny lives on a chicken, guys.
All I know is they ain't cheap either, though, because I guess they come from Japan. If you get them like at a
So how much
Japanese,
is one of these?
about $2.50, almost $3.
So what would it be in Japan?
I have no idea. Don't ask me that. All I know is we just had one at a Japanese restaurant, and I was like, "These are nice. I like these. These are pretty cool."
Have you tried soju yet, Courtney?
So,
Do
what?
you like sushi?
Soju?
I have no idea what that is.
I'm gonna take you out for
What's your,
soju.
what's your favourite Japanese food?
Sushi?
What type of sushi? Cooked or non-cooked?
Both?
Oh, really?
My youngest son loves sushi too.
Ever tried Korean?
I love Korean.
I like
Korean
Korean.
barbecue?
Mm.
Do you prefer Korean barbecue or do you prefer Japanese food?
I prefer Vietnamese food.
I think it's off of Westheimer in Houston. There's like a all-you-can-eat hot pot, like Korean hot pot.
I'm not a soup person. My younger son loves
That-
it,
what
but
do they call that stuff? It's like dishwater to me. Pho?
Pho?
Oh, pho.
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 Oh.
Pho?
Pho.
It's like
I think-
dishwater.
yeah, I
My
think
kids
it's
love
pronounced
it.
pho.
My wife's
Pho.
Vietnamese.
Of course.
Alright. And I'm
Yes,
telling you,
we
every
love
time I
it.
watch them eat it, it's like eating noodles in dishwater.
Have you tried it?
Yes.
Is that what you told your wife when she made it for you?
Sort of.
Oh no.
There are some Vietnamese foods that I like, but I do prefer Korean food.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer Korean food because the meat's thinner and it's more fun. We spoke about no real estate today at all.
Okay, well let's get into real estate.
So let's get
then.
into real estate.
All right.
Okay? We don't want to waste your time and we don't want to talk too much, so let's just talk a little bit about Andrew, can you just explain to us what you consider to be general contracting, just so everybody understands?
Wait, which one are you talking to when you say Andrew? No. I want
Oh.
him to figure it out.
Oh, got it.
Well, you got it right this time.
See? Just don't doubt me.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so Andrew, if you can explain what a general contractor is, just so everybody understands the difference between a general contractor and a contractor.
Yeah, so as a general contractor, we would be the ones, we would work with the client, pull the permits with the city or county. We'll also have our crews. We have one dedicated crew that we work with, but a lot of our stuff we have subcontractors, so that's what like a regular contractor would be. And we have ones that we solely work with. that we know do good work and who we use on all of our job sites. So basically a general contractor.
Oversees the
we're the overseers.
Yeah, and the nickname in the industry is the subs, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so in
You're
other
pretty
words-
much the ringleader in a circus.
Correct. And every construction site is kind of like a circus. There's so many different moving parts.
You need to get insulted with this woman. She's calling you a couple of clowns. You don't want to.
Oh no!
I heard
He's
ringleader.
Ringleader. That's
heard
the
ringleader.
suit, sparkly suit. Okay.
So she thinks
That's
you're
top.
Barnum. That's
I need a top hat.
that's totally unacceptable.
Trade in my cowboy hat for a top hat.
Dear, dear, dear. I don't know about that, but anyway. So basically, a general contractor is overseeing what we call the nickname in the industry is the subs, and they are basically the electricians, the plumbers, and such like. But you, as a
Everything.
general contractor, are ultimately responsible. Correct.
Correct.
So you would liaise with the client.
Yes.
Whoever the client is, you would liaise with the client and with their specifications on a particular
Correct.
project.
Yes.
What I'd like to do now is to sort of, so people can use the information that we're talking about, and so they understand the applications of what we're trying to. I've always said you can have as much knowledge as you want and as much education as you want, but if you don't know how to apply that knowledge, it's useless, completely worthless. And that's what I think a lot of people really can't get. They might have the knowledge and the information, but they just don't know how to apply it, and it just ends up, as I said, just being a complete and utter waste of space. In commercial, there's something that we have in commercial which is called TI, which is tenant improvement.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're working with commercial clients, you know, for example, you'll have a building and there might be a restaurant going in there, and they might decide to have the counter in one place and then enough room for the parking spaces and such like. And then there's so much more to it, and a lot of people don't really fully understand, because with commercial, one, you've got to go through all of that, so they'd work with you on that. But also with a lot of commercial, you can't open that property until you get an occupancy permit, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And an occupancy permit, as far as the landlord concerns, is one of the things that might influence that occupancy permit is how many parking spaces there are. Right. Is that something that you would deal with, or is that something that the landlord would have to deal with if it, in relation to parking spaces? Or is that something that you would liaise with the landlord?
So
Do you understand
it'll
to say,
be-
well, we need to build or find a way of getting more parking spaces in?
Right. So if they came to us and the parking spaces didn't line up with that code, we would basically just go to the client, say, hey, you don't have enough parking spaces. If you want this, we are going to need to add more in.
Okay, let me ask you sort of something else. That it varies, doesn't it, in all different counties, cities, districts. I've been through the permitting process with the City of Houston when we had our very first office, which was just off 610, and it was so frustrating. We used a general contractor, and we went through an architect, and he had a general contractor that we went through, and it was one of the most difficult things we went through all the permitting, and it ended up getting hung up, and we was about 4 months after the opening date because of the electric permit. They put the electric meter in the wrong place.
Yeah, it's easy. One small thing can hold up an entire project.
And so when you're getting yourself a good real estate agent, you need to, be aware of this. Sometimes you can ask for TI improvement, which is basically a contribution from the seller, which will help you pay the contractors, but they will only pay the contractors on that TI. The tenant will normally have to go ahead and pay the contractor, and then the amount of money that the landlord gives you for tenant improvements or TI will be reimbursed to the tenant after all the permits have been done and after you've got all the operating permits. At that time it'll be released. Is it a lot different from a permitting point of view if it's a residential property? Is that easier, or is that the same process? Is there less legalities
it
to
depends
it, or
on
is
where
there,
it's
or is
at.
there more legalities to it?
So every project's a little bit different, and it really just depends on what we're doing. Now, commercial, with the commercial zoning, and
Let me just put that more in the middle so you can.
with commercial, there's a lot more rules and regulations that you have to follow. There's different fire codes, different codes when it comes to plumbing, different codes with fire suppression systems. There's a lot more to a commercial property that you don't even have to, that a normal residential contract that will never experience. So with commercial, pulling the permits and the permitting process is drastically more difficult than a residential permit process.
Why do you think the reason for that is? Just because there's other people that are going there and visiting the restaurant or visiting that property and the liability of that?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it has to do with the liability. I think, and just from my opinion, if you mess up a house, only people that you're worried
It's only
about
going to affect the
hurting
people that's living in the house.
Correct. Where with a
Whereas
commercial
the public-
property, your fire suppression system's not up to code, or you're not following the occupancy guidelines, and you're overcrowded, and a fire happens. Now you're not risking 10 to 12 people in a household. You're risking hundreds of people in a commercial property.
What? Go
Are
on.
there occupancy allowances on houses? Like, can you?
The general occupancy rule on a house is 2 adults. What I believe in the city of Houston is 2 adults and 1 child under the age of 12 for each bedroom. And that's if it's a sort of rental. But to be perfectly honest, in the city of Houston, if you own your own house, who's to say?
Yeah, 50
There's
people
nobody
living in a
enforcing it.
3-bedroom?
There's probably a code out
Well,
there, but
there is a code out there.
the
but it's
enforcement's
still-
probably really limited.
So really, the only time I see occupancy on residential is when it's coming to septic issues. When you're pulling permits for septic tanks and things like that, that's when occupancy really comes into play. Because if you have 10 people living in the home, you need a much larger tank than if you have 3 people.
Tell us about we started off with the number of offices in Houston, and then I had the opportunity to purchase an office down in Lake Jackson. The office in Lake Jackson, my attitude was when I opened up the office in Lake Jackson was, everything's the same, it's no different, just keep it to how it was. It didn't take me long to realise that the industry is so much different down in Lake Jackson because of septics, underground aquifers, water and everything else. And I'm glad to say I've got some great agents down there that kicked my butt and really got me in line to say, look, you need to get yourself in line to understand this. And I had to do a lot of education and educate myself on different situations. Tell us about the septic, because the septics have to be, 100 yards from one another or 100 feet from one another? I'm talking about Brazoria.
So I believe it is 100 feet from, at least 100 feet from the home, and I don't have that code directly in front of me. I couldn't give you the exact.
There's a lot of rules to the septics.
Yeah, absolutely. They have to be buried a certain depth. They have to be a certain size. They have to be maintained a certain way. The chemicals that you use in them have to be certain chemicals. There's a lot of rules when it comes to septic. And I've seen a lot of people, like you were talking about, not being informed, and then buying homes and realizing.
Well, I'll give you a couple of instances that have happened with us. There have been people that they walked into the office and they've said, okay, I'd like to buy a second home on the Brazoria River.
Mm-hmm.
And when we've actually gone into and explained to them, on the Brazos, sorry, and when they've walked into the office and then we've started to explain what needs to be done with different things, like one of the lot of things at the moment is, well, I want to get a house on the Brazos and maybe, I'll do it as an Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
But when they go into the maintenance that it needs, like the septics, the water and everything else, they really do start to get second thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to say, well, this is expenses that I really didn't expect,
Yeah, that's
think I
'cause
was going to do.
with the Airbnbs, they usually want to make it max occupancy. So
Yeah.
usually there's only 4 to 6 people living in a house. If you're going to put 10 to 12 or something like that as, like a little lake home or, on the river, then you're going to have to upgrade everything.
Yeah.
And septic is not cheap. I know I've had many people, especially since the pricing of the houses are so expensive, that they'll be like, oh, I'll just buy a trailer and put it on a piece of property. I'm like, you better look into getting a well and septic.
Yeah.
I used to live in a trailer. It was horrible with the septic. We used to have to siphon it. So
Well, if you get a good enough septic system, you shouldn't have to siphon it very often.
Correct.
yeah, like once I didn't do it like every time I went to the bathroom, but it was still gross.
Well, just do it the good old fashioned way.
Dig a hole.
Bucket.
No, I'm gonna spend like $400 on a composting toilet before I do
How
that.
much is a septic? It's about 10 grand, isn't it? 12 grand?
Anywhere between 10 and 20, depending
I mean, it
on.
really is the price of septics. I've seen the price of septics go up, which has just been, unbelievable.
Price of everything.
But that's worldwide. I hear it all the time, but it really is worldwide until we get this Ukraine issue sorted out.
Yes.
It's going to affect everybody. It's the same thing's happened in Europe. It's happening now. So if anybody needs any eggs, just contact Courtney. She's got some chickens.
The
On
egg
social
prices have
media.
went down quite a bit lately.
Thank goodness. I eat eggs so much.
Eggs are wonderful. Eggs are wonderful. But what other questions have we got for the general contractors while we've got them in here? What's the biggest challenges that you have as a general contracting company?
So the biggest challenges we have had, biggest challenge we've had personally is homeowners refusing to pay after work has been completed. So that is one problem that we run into.
So what happens when they don't pay? What's
just,
like
like,
the next
Mechanics
steps from there?
lean.
You don't
So-
put a door up so they can't get in the house. Like
No,
you
that,
just-
No, you can't do
You
it.
can't do that. You'd be arrested for that.
Like a
No.
contractor's lien.
so you can put a contractor's lien, but even with the problem with the contractor's lien is you don't get paid until they try selling their house. So it might be
Can you
10
charge interest on that?
You can.
You can charge a nice little hefty interest on that.
Yeah.
And you know what's
absolutely.
ridiculous about what he just said? I'll give you a typical example. We wanted some work done on our house recently, and I think the safest way to do it is to take half now,
Mhm.
and then half when the rest is
And
completed.
that's generally how we operate.
It is?
Mhm.
Well, we had a contractor that recently did. We got our own gate for the house. Who did the work, and we paid them the money to repair the gate, which was half up front and half down, and now it's falling apart and we can't find it.
So unfortunately, that happens a lot as well in the industry.
You'll get a lot of these little pop-up companies.
Yeah, and apparently
Do a
we
lot
go
of
to-
shoddy work and
Yeah,
then
and we go to a local gate company in Houston who sell all the supplies, like the gate openers and the gate motors and everything. And it's a real good motor that we've got. And he turned around and said, "It happens all the time in the gates. When you've got gate openers and gates, people just come in, they know nothing about doing it, and it just falls apart."
Yeah.
So now we've got to bring another gate guy in to sort of take a look at it.
We see a lot of that in the roofing industry as well.
Really.
Especially in like the windstorm areas. Like
Do you have to be a general contractor? You don't have to have a license, do you?
not in the state of Texas now.
Do you think that should be part of being a general?
100%. Yes.
So for people that are out there shopping for a contractor, what kind of questions should they ask, or how should they kind of research the companies to make sure that they're getting, a good company that's not going to just get half their money and take off and leave?
So one of the main things is references. Call those references. So when we're asked, almost every project we're asking, hey, can you provide a couple references? And that's not a problem. But I think only maybe once in the last 6 months has anyone actually contacted any of those people.
Yeah.
And that's
And they
a really
contacted
big thing.
every person that we sent them. Every reference we gave them, they contacted every single person.
So they actually did their due diligence, reached out, and talked to homeowners we've worked with. They wanted pictures of the projects that we've done in the past, and take the time and actually sit down with your contractor and talk to them. If you get a funny feeling about them, don't hire them.
So go with your gut.
So go with your gut, but also do a reverse image search on Google with the pictures that they send you.
That way they're not sending you Google pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
We've had other companies take our pictures from Facebook and try using them, and we actually had a homeowner that we did the work for reach out to us and go, hey, this other company is using pictures of my house.
kitchen.
And they're saying that they did it. So, I just didn't care. I was like, hey,
That's copyright infringement.
yeah, it is.
Not worth going down that rabbit hole.
No.
And if they had to do that, most likely they ain't got money anyways.
Correct.
Imagine seeing your
But-
house just on an advertisement.
But back to your original
Hey,
question.
that's my house, and that's not the company I use.
I 100% think contractors should be required to be licensed. Because there's a lot more to a general contractor than even what Andrew described. As a general contractor, I have to have knowledge of every trade that's going out there. I have to be able to understand the permitting process and the requirements for electrical just as much as I do for plumbing. I have to be able to make sure that subcontractor is working within what they're supposed to be doing, and not making it to where, like you were saying, something as simple as an electrical box just being misplaced can hold up a project or hold up a business from opening 4 or 5 months. So me as the general contractor, I have to know and be able to read these building codes, read these laws, be able to meet all of these different specifications all the way through, whether it be plumbing, electrical, framing, HVAC, and I have to be able to have a knowledge of all of those things. So it eliminates the pop-up companies like Drew was talking about that are going to come in, take your money, and just leave.
So as homeowners or anybody trying to help somebody out, if you do get taken by these general contractors or have crappy work, what would you recommend that they should do to try to get it fixed?
So they can sue, but the problem is the same homeowners that are really getting taken that way.
Are the ones looking for the cheapest price?
Well, so not necessarily, but they probably didn't do that homework and research that company and things like that. Like us at Baldur Construction, we're fully insured. We're registered with the state of Texas and all
Insured
of
and
that.
bonded.
Yeah, absolutely.
And them are the two things that I always ask for with any contractor: licensed and bonded.
Mhm.
And some of the properties that we manage, we actually ask that we're put on the bottom of the insurance as an additional insured,
Mhm.
just in case anything happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the realtors we work with and some of the investors that we work with, they actually require us to do the same thing. So depending on the project, we have to add them as a secondary on the insurance. But even that, we carry $2 million worth of insurance just because we do work on historical
Which I've got to say
buildings.
to everybody is more than what is normally The minimum is normally $1 million.
Correct.
So can you tell me what's the difference if a contractor was to go into your house and fix your house without that insurance compared to with it?
Yeah, so contractor comes in your house with no insurance. Let's just talk about the demo aspect of that project. They swing a hammer, hit your electrical, some wiring, sends up a spark, your house burns down.
Or they hit a load-bearing wall.
Yeah, and
Or
collapse.
Water pipe.
Yeah, or bust a water pipe. If the contractor has insurance, easy, just like your car insurance. They file a claim, the insurance writes a check, and everything is taken care of in that house. With no insurance, now you're trying to get all of this money from that contractor's pocket. And if they couldn't afford their insurance bill, odds are they're probably not going to be able to afford the $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 worth of damage they caused to your home.
Right.
I have a question. Well, we have a question. Is there a longer way to get permits for a historical building or signage versus a regular commercial?
So it's not necessarily that it is a longer wait. There are more stipulations, and depending on what you're doing at that building, you may need an architect who is experienced with historical buildings. I wouldn't say it takes longer per se. There's just more hoops that you have to jump through.
More paperwork.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another question. Back to septic, it says, if there is a sewage that is shared with 3 properties in the city, and if there is a constant backup, what property is liable to repair, or is it the city's responsibility?
That's a very specific question.
It is a very specific question.
YouTube chat.
So
There's houses that share septics?
Are there houses that share septics, guys?
So typically, that's something that was designed way back when it was all first built, and it was probably all the same property at first.
Properties close together.
Or all made by the same builder. I don't have an answer for that.
I wouldn't say it's going to be on the city's side. And that's just my personal opinion. It's on their property.
If it is a septic tank, it is never the city's responsibility.
Right.
That is all shared by the homeowners.
I guess you could compare it to like your fence falls down and it's, bordering your
I
neighbor.
would assume it'd be like a shared cost between the 3 individuals.
If everybody agrees.
And that's where it gets
That's the issue.
complicated.
Just like the fence goes down, you have to have your neighbor agree to fix it,
Right.
or you on your own fixing it.
Because like
Do you know,
we could argue with Stephen. We'd be like, well, Stephen just had a colonoscopy here. He's about to have one, so it's his fault that the septic tank blew up.
That one, drop the mic. That was perfect.
Oh. And I wondered why my ass was sore. What was it? I actually had a question for you. As rehabbing the property, what do you think is the best approach in relation to? Do you have a way of costing a property, like with a rehab? If you're working with somebody that's constantly rehabbing properties, do you have, is that something, the type of business that you're interested in doing for investors?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a specific price sheet specifically for our investors that we work with. And then we also have different deposits for the investors that we work with, different payment structures for the investors that we work with. We do a lot of rehabs though. That's one of the things that we specialize in is complete home remodels.
That's
Or
pretty cool.
commercial remodels, either way.
Okay, and where can they find that price sheet? Is that something that they have to contact you for?
Yes,
or?
yes, correct.
Okay, well, I'll be contacting you after that for that, because we've got some. Also, there's been a lot of code changes over the years. One of them is, and I just emailed actually my HOA property manager. On one of our properties, we have just had to do we've had to update all the external electric boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Federal Electric?
So what?
Federal Electric. You know the old Federal Electric boxes.
Oh yes, all the old school boxes.
Yeah.
Uh huh.
Yeah. Apparently, you can no longer use them anymore. Is that correct? You have to change
Yes.
them. You have to upgrade them.
Correct.
It's actually what just happened at Manny's house, isn't it?
Uh huh. Yep.
And why is that?
So
why?
we did a full remodel at one of our customers' houses, and we actually ran into that issue. We had to upgrade his electrical panel.
Yeah,
Because he had
we
an old
manage
one.
over 500 properties, and every single one of them properties has had to be upgraded.
Mm-hmm. So they're no longer up to code, and I don't know the specific reasoning why they made the change. Typically, when I see changes made that are requiring you to switch electrical panels, it's normally due to fires. I don't want to scare anybody though. I don't know that 100%.
No, but I think people need to be aware that if they have a Federal Electric panel outside in their garage or on the side of their house, I think they need to be aware of it. That we recommend, we're there to just give an opinion, but it's. I can guarantee you, when you come to sell your house, sometimes it becomes an issue when they do an inspection, and it says that there's a Federal Electric panel on your house, and it'll say that you need a new panel.
Yeah, absolutely. We, like he was saying, out in Pasadena, the house was built in the 60s. Same issue. He had a Federal Electric box. He's trying to sell the house. As soon as the appraisalist came by, the home inspector came by. That was one of the notations that were made, and we had to change the electric box for him. And I can say that. That's a pricey thing. If you didn't know that
The Federal Electric issue, is that anything to do with aluminium wiring, or are the two issues completely different?
No, those are going to be two completely separate issues.
So explain to us about aluminium wiring.
So aluminum over time.
Oh, here we go again. Here we go. You Americans don't have to say things. Here we go. Aluminium. Okay.
What?
Aluminium wiring.
Aluminum.
Okay, after he's explained this, I'm going to explain something to you guys. Okay, here we go. Go on.
So the reason why aluminum wiring is no longer up to code is because of the way it corrodes. It's going to corrode in your walls, and it does not conduct the same way as your copper wiring. So it gets hotter in your walls, leading to fires.
Oh, so it's not just the electric box that the aluminium wiring is relating to, it's throughout the whole house.
Correct. Aluminum wiring is just no longer code anymore.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
around what year did they stop doing those on houses? Like, what kind of years are you going to see that on the houses?
Probably pre-90s.
Okay.
May even be older than that.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So with aluminium wiring, it basically can heat up and cause problems.
Correct.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Go on.
Because I know y'all work with investors and also homeowners. On the investors side, what do you see some maybe mistakes as far as them updating that probably won't, get them the most bang for their buck when they go to sell it? Same thing for homeowners.
So, on the investor side, some of the things that I have noticed is they spend money on weird things.
Example?
They would rather spend, and I can't say this for everyone, but some of the guys that we've worked with, they would rather spend $10,000 on countertops than spend $10,000 adding a second bathroom. Which in my brain makes no sense, because adding a second bathroom to a home automatically increases the value of the house. Or using granite versus an epoxy that looks like granite. You have the same look for a third of the cost.
You can still set hot stuff on it.
Yeah, it's
Because usually for these investors, when they're flipping these houses, these are usually going to be your first-time home buyers.
Uh-huh.
These are going to be the people that are going to be happy just to get into a house. So they're usually not looking for the most upscale thing. They're looking for something that's practical. So the least that they can spend on it means that it's going to be a lower purchase price for them, which is going to work out.
Right. And that's where it gets confusing for me. Like, why are we putting granite in this house when we could get away with this? And it looks the same, and your homeowner's going to be just as happy. Another thing is who they're trusting to work on their houses. I think, especially lately, most of the investors I've talked to are having a very hard time finding decent contractors that they can trust. They take the money and then they run off. And for an investor, that's a huge issue.
Yeah.
You know, you're already working with a very small profit margin.
Especially recently, because there's not the houses out there. There's not.
Or they
communities
start
out
work
there.
and never finish the project.
Correct. So we're seeing a lot of that.
I've been offered, actually, the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been offered some projects where they've started the projects and they haven't got the money to finish it because they bought the projects at the wrong amount of money. And
People are jumping into this market head first.
they
Not at a great time.
and they think that
They're new.
Well, it's not a case of it's not the right time. It's always the right time, but it's like what I say to everybody is you don't make your money when you sell, you make your money when you buy. So, but what's happening is a lot of people just to say they get the deal have been really buying at small margins.
Mhm.
You know, if you're wholesaling, ideally you're looking for 70% of ARV to cover all your costs. There's some companies out there at the moment that are buying at 85% ARV.
Right.
You know, after repair value, and that's just nuts. But how would you feel with that outside your house?
I would not like it.
Does that add any value?
No, I think if it had different colors, it would look better.
Gee.
That's my personal opinion because it just looks like targets right now. Looks like you should shoot an arrow through it.
Wow. I'll tell you one of the mistakes that I've made as an investor is I have spent too much money on appliances than what I should have done. In other words, I've put top of the range stainless steel appliances rather than just white appliances.
Mhm.
And then my wife has seen the invoices and says, why is it that we've got regular appliances and all your tenants have got silver appliances?
But in reality now, the stainless steel are almost the cheapest. White is hard to find in appliances right now.
You can still find them. We have some contacts. We have some
We
contacts.
have a white appliance contact.
Yeah. But what do you think about?
I know for investors, sometimes the fix and flippers get a bad name. For people that are out there trying to buy houses, what do you think that they should look at, or what should they do to make sure that they're not getting a house where that investor just kind of band-aided the stuff that was wrong with
A
it?
good home inspection.
Absolutely.
But I think the problem is with people that are buying properties from wholesalers is they're never advised to get a home inspection. There's nobody to advise them through the process that goes on, and that's why I say go get yourself a good real estate agent, because all the brokers, we're licensed, we carry insurance as well
Mhm.
in case there's any issues. It's exactly the same as what is with general contracting. I've never understood the reason why general contractors are not licensed in Texas.
So I don't either. I'm originally from Northern California, and out in California, it is a huge process to become a general contractor. There's all kinds of testing that you have to do. You have to go to a testing facility, do a 200-question test. You have to score above 80%, and you can't have any sort of books, anything like that. And you're monitored the entire time to make sure you can't cheat.
I think it would be a plus for Houston, because I think indirectly it would improve the quality of the properties that we have on, because there's got to be properties that are getting through, through the loops, as it was.
Because the bad thing too is if you spend this money on these contractors and they do a shoddy job, now you're going to have to pay somebody to completely rip it up and start all over.
Yeah, and then kind of to touch on what you were asking about the whole band-aiding and the house flippers, investors, just like homeowners, have to start doing their homework when they're dealing with contractors. Unless you have a 10,000 square foot mansion, it doesn't cost $50,000-$60,000 to remodel a kitchen. So if these investors would start calling around, finding people that they can trust, they wouldn't have to band-aid these houses anymore. If they find a contractor that can work within their budget and put forth good work, then it eliminates the issue for these homeowners. But that for the homeowner, go through a company that you can trust. Get a real estate agent that you can trust. Somebody who's not going to just well, this is in your budget. I know you're first-time home buyer. This is in your budget. This is the house you need. Get somebody that you can trust. Get a home inspection. And for investors, stop using these shady contractors.
So what are the top 3 things that people do to lower their home values?
They just waste their money. They say that.
So wasting their money.
I'll give you my top 3, and you, as a contractor, you give you.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I think at times when people sell their houses, I think they shouldn't update their house. I think they go over the top of updating. Well, I'm going to repaint the whole house. And what I've got a problem with that is, well, if you paint the walls grey and somebody goes in that house and they want a different colour wall, they're not going to repaint the walls anyway. So I think that's, and I think people think that, well, if I paint the walls, and say if I repaint the walls and it costs me $10,000 or whatever it does, or even with different things, I think they're better off reducing the price of the home, or selling the house at a better price, because if not, you've got holding costs. So you make more money on the house. If it's things like updates, as in kitchens and bathrooms, then I think it may be worth it. It's something that you have to look at, because the houses normally sell on kitchens and bathrooms.
Because those are the most expensive things to fix.
Yep.
And plumbing is the most expensive thing, in my opinion, because a mistake in plumbing is an absolute headache. If you've got a problem with the plumbing, you've got a problem with the toilet, you've got a problem with a lot of stuff, it can lead to a lot of other roll-offs. What do you think?
So,
roofs?
Well, I personally think that your roof should be one of the things that you fix before you sell a house. I mean, that's the one thing that's protecting that entire house. As far as a waste of money, I'm actually inclined to agree with you on the painting of the house. And the amount of money that they're throwing into these remodels.
I know somebody I know spent $60,000-$70,000 for their room and bathroom.
Yeah.
To remodel it. I was like, what? I was like, that toilet better be gold.
Right. I mean,
I think, and I agree with you. I think the most important things to put your money in if you're going to sell the house is, one, the roof, because there is a new issue in Texas at the moment where if the roof is more than 10 years old, there is an endorsement that you've got to say that the insurance company won't cover the cost of replacing the roof. So I think if you can afford to put a new roof on, that may help, and that doesn't include a repair. It has to be full new.
Yes.
And what do you call it? There's a new roof certificate. Is
It's
there a
only when you're close to the Gulf, the WPI8.
So, when you're in a windstorm area, you'll have your WPI8, but
And what is that? Is it like a certificate or something?
it's a certificate through windstorm. It's saying that the roof was built up to windstorm specifications, and I can explain the difference in that. Like for a asphalt shingle roof, anywhere else other than a windstorm area, you're only required to put 4 nails per shingle. In a windstorm area, you're required to put 6. Everything has to be done in a very specific way in the windstorm area to get that WPI8 certificate.
Because an engineer's got to inspect it.
Correct.
Okay, and how about, can you explain a 2-tab roof and a 3-tab roof?
So you mean a 3-tab versus like a architectural shingle?
Yes.
Okay, so a 3-tab is going to be your 20-year roof. That roof is
Basic economy level.
correct.
Shingle.
That's going to be your bottom of the barrel roof. I would never recommend anyone get a 3-tab roof, which is your 20-year roof. And the reason I say that is here in Texas, we get windstorms all the time, hail, rain. A 20-year 3-tab roof is only rated for 60 miles an hour. That's shingle. Anything more than that, it's going to peel that shingle right off the roof. Or an architectural shingle, or a 30-year, anywhere between 30 and 50 depending on the shingle, is rated for 120. So you can get by up to like a Cat 3 on an architectural shingle. Not to mention the cost difference between the two. Most homeowners don't know this, but it costs almost exactly the same to put a 30-year shingle on a roof versus a 20-year shingle. The only difference is that whoever your contractor is upcharging. I think it costs me roughly $2 a square more to put a 30-year shingle versus a 20-year shingle.
Really? Now, why is it, if that's the case, this is what I can't understand. And I can't understand why they're telling me that I've got to increase my insurance because my roof is more than 10 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and yes, the warranty on my roof is 30 years old.
Correct. So
That's what I can't understand. Why can't these two industries get together?
what they don't tell you about that 30-year warranty is that 30-year warranty is under
Perfect conditions.
perfect
in a lab.
conditions in a lab. So that shingle is good in a lab for 30 years. Now every time the wind blows on that shingle, every time it gets hit by rain, it gets hit by sun, gets hit by hail, gets hit by anything, it's dropping that 30 years.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why in the state of Texas, you're lucky to get 10 years out of a roof before you're needing to change it. And
Wow.
that's
See,
why
that's interesting. That's actually some great information.
You should talk to him about your roof.
Yeah, so one really cool thing about Texas is the homeowner's insurance will cover your roof. It will, and it's not a
I'll
negative.
tell him the story to be fun.
And I can fix it for you. Doesn't even matter if you have State Farm; I can still help you get it fixed. But
We do have State Farm, actually.
yeah, I can still help. Gosh, I lost track of my train of thought.
You got too excited. I'm sorry.
Oh, so we're talking about insurance with your roofs. So we fall into what's called the act of God clause when it comes to your roof
don't begin into the
specifically.
conversation. Okay.
Well, by law in Texas, they're not supposed to be able to raise your rates, and they're not supposed to be able to cancel you if you file a wind or hail claim on your roof. You are protected. For those, you burn down your house and have to file an insurance claim, they're going to jack your rates up. But when it comes to wind and hail for your roof, it falls under the act of God clause because you didn't put your house on the back of a semi and drive it into a storm. You know, your house was sitting there and God decided to send a storm your way. So in the state of Texas, you're protected, but most people don't realize that. They don't think they can file insurance claims on their homes, and they're
get too scared
terrified
to
if
file.
they do, because they think that they're going to jack up your rates or cancel your insurance or something like that. And in the state of Texas, they cannot.
But is that why so many insurance companies have gone out of our market?
Yes.
Because that's all of our claims. It's wind and hail.
Yeah, that's
It
exactly
really is
why.
because I told you earlier on, I did have my insurance license to sell insurance, and it's not something I wanted to continue because I felt like an attorney. It's a lot more complicated than people think. Insurance, I find real estate more practical. But I'll give you an example. We own a house with terracotta tiles on the roof, Mediterranean roof.
Yep.
Built in 1972.
Huh?
It's basically a square donut with like a patio area in the middle of the house. When it was built, it was a custom built home, but when they built the home, where you had the 2x4s, there was no plywood put on. The tiles are literally just hung from tile to tile to tile to tile.
Really?
You have zero deck.
When we have a storm, that's exactly what we think. Because the tiles are literally hung on the 2x4s. There's no plywood.
I have never seen that.
Well,
Now, is it 2x4?
you've got the peak,
Yep.
and then you've got obviously the top. So
Uh-huh.
it started to hang from the top. Then you might have a 2x4, 3 or 4 feet down.
Just
Then
regular.
another one
Wow.
3 or 4 foot down. But the tiles actually hang on one another.
Whoever did your
Well, that
house
way.
must have went to my house and put in the flooring.
That's crazy.
So for us to
Insurance
put a
code
new
up.
roof on, it'll be extremely expensive because what we've got to do is
Redeck. the
we've got
entire
to
roof.
redeck it
Yes.
first. And I'll be honest with you, we're not going to do Mediterranean tile again
Mm.
because originally I wanted to go metal roofs
Yep.
because I thought a metal roof would be just a better thing to do. So in the event that I'm not here no more and I pass on and the kids have got the house, then I think a metal roof would be good. But a metal roof is 2.5 the times price of an asphalt roof. So I just can't see the point.
And so even with that, with today's technology on these asphalt shingles, like the company that we use Certainty for all of our shingles, and they've now upgraded from a 30-year to now they're lifetime shingles. They have a warranty for life.
Are they fiberglass?
Yes, so
Because there's some shingles out there that are made out of fiberglass.
Yeah, that's what asphalt shingles are. You've got a layer of asphalt, and then you got
A layer of
fiberglass,
fiberglass,
and then you got more asphalt on
Oh,
top,
okay.
and then
Yep.
you got the granules.
That's pretty interesting. And how about foundations? You do foundations as well, do you? Or?
yeah, uh-huh.
And what's your process through foundations? Do you work from a structural engineer, or is there a structural engineer that you work with?
Yeah, so we use Lightning Engineering.
Uh-huh.
They're our structural engineers, and we have them come out, look at the property, tell us where we need to pick it up and all of that. So we work directly with a structural engineer when it comes to foundation and let them tell us what we need to do.
Okay, and then Kay, I need you to just make sure you click this, what I'm going to say, but for everybody out there, what I want everybody to know is, don't just get a foundation company into your home and say, I've got a foundation problem, can you please tell me how much the foundation repair is going to cost? What you really need to do is to get a foundation engineer in the house, and then the idea is you take his foundation engineer, then you give it to a company like Baldur Construction, and then you get a quote on what it'll cost you to do the repair. Because if you get 3 or 4 foundation companies, they'll all give you different prices. They'll all say the different types of foundation repair in different places, and it's just absolutely off the charts. And before I was a real estate agent and I did some work for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, I didn't realise that, but that's something that they were very rigorous on, and that was the first thing. There's a problem with the foundation, structural engineer.
Yeah, and one thing that a lot of homeowners don't think about, they'll call a foundation company, and yeah, sure, you might only need 3 piers, but there's so many costs that are not thought about when you pick up a house. Like all of the cracks that are gonna be from settling and all of that need to get fixed, rehanging all of your doors to make sure they open and close correctly now. All your windows may need to be rehung. You know, a lot of times I see when they level out these houses again, all of a sudden their windows won't move at all. You have to completely take out the window and reset it back in because all of the nails and everything that were holding it are now everything's shifted.
While you're talking about windows, if you're looking at selling your house, is windows something that you should be looking at
Absolutely.
replacing?
I
Because I think windows is something that adds value to a house. I think your roof does, your windows. I think your bathrooms, we're not spending 60,000 on your golden toilet. I think kitchen, you know, I think that's important. How about floors? What do you think is how do you rate these tiles that look like wood at the moment?
I think they're played out.
You think they're played out?
I like them.
I like them too.
So, and it's not that I don't like them.
We put a lot of them in. You're not the only ones that like them.
Everybody has them in their house right now. They have these vinyl plank floors that look like wood.
Oh, not vinyl plank. Nope. I'm talking about tiles.
Yeah.
Well, so you can put the ceramic ones too.
But that's the
Now-
new thing now is those vinyl planks. Is that really they claim to be pretty waterproof. Is that really a good idea if you got kids, dogs,
So
animals?
it depends on what you get. Now there are vinyl plank out there that are 100% waterproof. That they have a lifetime warranty where that company will actually pay me to come back out, rip up your floor and replace one piece if it gets damaged. So me personally, I prefer vinyl plank floor over like a porcelain tile lookalike that looks like wood. Because and it depends on your contractor. You know, my tile guys are phenomenal. We actually go back through and we make sure there's no hollow spots under any of the tiles or anything like that. But that's the big problem with tile, is if you don't have someone fantastic putting in tile, not just good, fantastic, they have to be the best. You're going to get hollow spots under your tiles,
And they're going to
and then
crack.
you drop something on that tile, shattered.
They have to know how to butter the tiles.
Correct.
We had that with our first contractor actually. When we bought the house, it was owned by an old lady who had a lot of cats, and you can guess what the house smells of. And we literally gutted the house. I mean, we got a contractor to come in, gutted the house, updated everything, or what we could afford at the time, and we gutted the house. We fixed it up, and on the tile, what they did, we dropped something on the floor, and then all of a sudden we heard this tile move, and then we had to get them in to actually redo it again. But it's never been the same. You know, it can be done, but it's difficult. Anyway, Kate's giving me the finger. She's saying over there that it's time.
It's time to stop talking and wrap up the show.
So, how do people contact you guys? Come on, Matthew and Andrew.
Anyone's welcome to contact either one of us directly. My cell phone number is 210-639-4755.
And mine is 409-978-5600. Sorry.
Or you can email us at Baldur, that's BALDUR, constructiontx@gmail.com.
And what's your web address? Do you have a website?
Not at the moment.
Okay, all right, no problem. Well, if anybody has problems getting hold of them, they're more than welcome to call us or
And they can
contact
also
us.
check us out on Facebook as well.
Okay,
We do have
and how do
Facebook.
they do that?
It's Baldur Construction
Just Baldur
TX.
Construction TX, okay. All right. And how do we get hold of the lone lady over here missing her her other half.
Oh no. 832-409-7908, and you can email me at Courtney@lspmortgage.com.
Or you can contact me at www.c21olympiantx on Facebook. You can DM me and you can contact me that way. It's all set up, isn't it, now? I believe the lady in the background.
Yes.
And I'd like to thank Kay for coming in, and she's the brains behind all of this. So if anything goes wrong, we can blame her.
Oh, I gotta go.
All right, guys, we look forward to seeing you next week. If you have any additional questions, please put them in the chat. We do look forward to seeing you again. So have a good week, be happy, stay happy, have some fun, and as always, ta-ta for now.